Hello again, everybody, and welcome into Countdown to Tip-Off, presented by UT Knoxville alumni and Tennessee Athletics. Thank you for joining us today for our virtual pregame show. I'm Brian Rice, Tennessee alum and voice of the Lady Vols. Before we get started today, we would like to thank our presenting sponsor, THREDS, located here in Knoxville. THREDS has been delivering award-winning services for startups and leading industries across the world for nearly 30 years. Their passion is making you look good. That is THREDS. Now let's get started. Today's highlights include an interview with one of the absolute Tennessee legends. Her name is in the rafters of the Food City Center. That's Chamique Holdsclaw. We'll have a feature on Lady Vols senior Sarah Puckett, as well as highlights from the season to this point, keys to the game, and much more. Before we get started, though, we want to hear from you. If you have questions about the team, tonight's game against Connecticut, or questions for our LVFL guest, Chamique Holdsclaw, type those into the comments section on any of the streaming services you're joining us from today, and we will answer some of those later on in the show. Now let's get started. Our Lady Vols senior Sarah Puckett has been a staple of the program for the last 4 years. From being an SEC All-Freshman team selection to start her career, multiple SEC Academic Honor Roll selections, as well as the Vol Leaders Academy, Sarah Puckett has given her all for Tennessee.
Off to Spear. Spear drives into the free throw line. Now left corner, Puckett for three. She got it. Sarah Puckett. Wide or back to Puckett. Top of the key for three. She hits it. Sarah Puckett, the big game already. She has 8.
For me as a player, I feel like I'm very versatile. I can post people up, I can shoot the three, I can take them off the dribble, and that spreads out the floor for my teammates. And so whenever I do drive to the paint, I can kick it out and give my teammates open shots and put them in position to score as well. I like to get on the floor for loose balls. I like to hustle my tail off so that my teammates will do the same and just bring energy and leadership as much as I can. This style of play is very fast. You have to be on your toes constantly. You can't think about the last play. You have to just be ready to, adjust to whatever happens in the game, and we work on that in practice. With my teammates, we have really good team chemistry. We care a lot about each other off the court, and that translates to on the court to just be able to be fired up whenever anyone scores, and just to work together on the court means a lot because we've put in so much work off the court together, and just make sure we were ready for this season, and now it's showing.
Burrell. They look for a three for the lead, and they get it! Sarah Puckett for three!
Just all the experience I've had over the past 3 years has really molded me into the senior I am today, just whether that be on the floor, like in practice, seeing leaders, how they led, how I wanted to be led by people, so that helps me now. Knowing how, physical and fast the SEC is, to, keep on building the legacy means a lot to be here. And as a senior, I take every moment like it's my last because I don't have that many more left. Yeah, I think everybody knows what it means to be a Lady Vol when you get here, but just to make sure that the transfers and our freshmen knew exactly what it means and how high we want to keep that standard every single practice, every single game, whatever it is we're doing. We want to make sure that we're, holding that Lady Vol name to its highest as it should be held. So I've just tried to really be encouraging. I'm not really the leader that's gonna yell at them or just get all in their grill. I'm gonna make sure that they understand and they know that I'm supporting them fully. I'm 110% behind them, and they can always look for me to ask questions, for encouragement, whatever it is they need. I want to be there to provide.
18 on the shot clock. Here's Puckett for three. She's got it again.
When a Lady Vol fan thinks of Sarah Puckett in 5-10 years, I want them to think of how hard of a worker she was and how I just always, represented the Lady Vol name as well as I could, that I really cared about, performing for our fans and just getting to know them as well off the court, so they knew who I was as a person and who they were cheering for.
All right, so we hear some of the big names in women's college basketball right now and women's professional basketball right now, but our guest today was known in her day as the Michael Jordan of women's basketball. We're excited to welcome 3-time NCAA champion, 5-time SEC champion, and 2-time Naismith National Player of the Year winner, Chamique Holdsclaw, to Countdown to Tip-Off. Chamique, thanks so much for joining us here today. Great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, Brian. Excited to be here.
All right, I'm going to start with this. It's Tennessee and Connecticut tonight. You were here at Tennessee on kind of the front end of this rivalry when it was still new but developing among two teams that every year were competing for a national championship. What are some of your memories of the series and those games?
Oh, just the intensity. I mean, it's no secret. UConn didn't like us. We didn't like UConn. And, the whole battle between Gino and Coach Summit, I think it was great for the game. I think it was a game where the fans really showed up. I mean, the Lady Vols fans show up anyway, but during those games, it was always like a packed house. And it was just exciting. The players went out there and competed and just left everything out there on the court.
That was a time where the sport needed this rivalry to kind of take its next steps. When you see women's basketball, not just college, but also the WNBA and where it is today, how much of that do you trace back to some of those Tennessee-UConn matchups at a time that was so important?
Man, I trace back a lot. I just think about both programs. One thing about Gino and Coach Summit was they wanted to play the best. They had the hardest schedules. They were grinded out. They understood their impact. That's the key. Everywhere you're going, people are coming to see you. And so I think that mentality really helped grow the game of women's basketball.
All right, I don't know that I've ever seen you answer this, so I'm curious. Why did you choose the University of Tennessee?
Now, you want me to be 100% honest?
Let's go.
Well, my grandmother, June Holdsclaw, I mean, once she met Coach Summit and Coach DeMoss, I was pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered. I think as a young athlete, I looked at, okay, they have my major. You look at things like, oh, your friends going there, the color of the uniforms, it's this excitement of being young. But, my grandmother wanted someone that was going to lead me into being a better woman, make sure I was safe. And I will say the leadership of Coach Summit, Coach DeMoss, and Holly Warwick, that was the trifecta for me. They made sure that I understood what family was. And I just didn't know my family was going to be something. The orange people have followed me throughout my life. I mean, I've been out of the country, traveling places, and I run into Tennessee people, and it's just like a family. You just pick up, you share stories. And so that's really been a blessing in my life.
One of my favorite things about sports and being involved in it as I have is seeing how it brings people from different backgrounds and people from different geographic locations together. Mm-hmm. Your freshman class was you from New York, and then one player from Texas, and then several players from here in the state of Tennessee, including Kelly Jolly, now Kelly Harper, who was your point guard. What was it like for that class and that team to kind of bond together? What did you learn from each other, and how did you bring that all together?
I will say, especially for me coming from New York, is such a diverse place. I was eager to get to know each teammate, go home with people. I remember, going to Sparta, Tennessee with Kelly and, riding a horse and, seeing this big field is something that I necessarily wasn't exposed to as a kid. To hear stories from other teammates about their small towns and in Tennessee and the things they did for fun, as well as, like you said, I remember it wasn't my freshman class, but, learning about Oregon from Lori Milligan, who was a point guard, and, the Pacific Coast and all these different places that I only imagined going to one day. I just think it was this amazing group of people that just shared their story. And I got the worst of it because everybody, oh my God, you're from New York. It's so dangerous. This is what I heard throughout my time. Oh my God, guess what? People love going to New York, and you learn a lesson. It's what you're exposed to. You come as young people and you aren't really exposed. You're probably in your neighborhood, probably in your state, but being able now to see us as adults and laugh about things like that. Can you believe I said those things about New York? And I'm like, oh my God, the things I said about, say, Sparta, Tennessee, but it really, helps you grow as a person.
All right, I want to take you back. You had won, and we'll have a couple of questions from our audience coming up here in just a second. If you have your questions, again, type them into whatever streaming service you're watching us on today. I want to take you back to you're the defending national champions, and HBO's following you for a documentary through the season, and that season doesn't go as well as you expected. 10 losses, and then you end up winning the national championship. What was that season like, from the struggles to pulling through it to win the championship?
Brian, it was a lot of tears, a lot of frustration. And one thing we leaned on was sisterhood. We could not have won if we did not support one another. And at times, I'm sorry, it was like us against Coach Summit, because, she's on our backs and we're like, we got to stick together. We're going to show her. And, I was just glad that we were able to come together. We turned up and we did show her, and her leadership allowed us to go out there and compete and stick together and win a championship. But it was tough. It was tough. If you watch the documentary, you can see a lot of ugly tears, some clipboards thrown. But at the end of it, just know that it was well worth it.
See a couple of comments scrolling across the bottom right now. Let's grab one of our questions from one of our viewers. How do you think the University of Tennessee prepared you for the future?
I will say, being at the University of Tennessee, it taught me, again, coming from New York, everybody's story is different, but it taught me to not to fear the unknown. It was really different. It was a whole different landscape. I was very uncomfortable at first, but I think the community just supported me, showed me a lot of love. And I think that's something that I've carried on the rest of my life. Sometimes you got to take those chances. And I took one, and I stayed at that university, and I've met some of my best friends, my closest allies, and I'm grateful for that.
As you've gone through life and your career during basketball, after basketball,
Mm-hmm.
What's it meant to come back to the University of Tennessee?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last part?
What's it meant to come back to the University of Tennessee?
Oh man, I'm just so proud. First of all, to see just every time how much has grown, to see the diverse group of kids, to see the amazing programs that they have. I was just intrigued when learning about the international program that takes the young student athletes out of the country, and they've been places like Rwanda. I think that's awesome. You'd have to expose people to different things and realize there's a whole different world out there that you can be nurturing and giving to. So those type of things make me really proud to be a Tennessee alumni.
Say another question from our viewers. Leslie asks, what game would you replay if you could?
Man, what game? I would say the Carolina game. Back when I was in school, I think we were playing at Vanderbilt, and we were actually losing, and we were probably going to be out of the tournament if we would have lost. And I just remember that game, and I just loved the intensity of it because, that was the game Samika Randall, one of the three Meeks, put me in a chokehold and was telling me, man, wake up, step up. And I use that example a lot with working with kids because, at that time I could be considered the best player on the team or leader, and I wasn't playing well, and our season was about to go away, and she challenged me. I didn't look at it as disrespect. We're sisters. I know she has my best interests, and, I think I go and I score 6 points straight, and she's like, that's what I'm talking about. Wake up. And, we all need that person in our lives, and we have to put our egos to the side sometimes. So that's the game for me.
When you guys were going for your three-peat, the Chicago Bulls were going for their three-peat. And
Right.
You guys go to Chicago and play DePaul, but you guys had an opportunity to meet with Michael Jordan. What was that moment like? Man,
it was surreal because for me growing up as a kid, Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson were like my athletes, and I thought I was going to, because I saw when the Nike rep was with us on the bus and we pull up, I see Harpo Studio. So I'm like, oh, we're going to meet Oprah. We're going to meet Oprah. So we're going up, and I remember they said, Chamique, come to the front, push me through. And I walk in, and it was like Michael Jordan. I was just frozen, and I stand next to him. I'm about to take the picture, and he looks down, and he's like, man, what size shoe do we wear? And me and Michael Jordan, I think we wore the same size, 13. So it was kind of comical. But again, the greatest to ever do it. And he happened to be the president of my team when I played for the Washington Mystics. And so it was great, even, learning from him and some of the advice he had for me as far as basketball and life. So it was a great opportunity.
All right, we're going to take a couple more from our audience, Suggs. The chat is warm right now. Donna said, are you going to get involved in a WNBA franchise? For example, the proposed Tennessee Summit out of Nashville.
Right now in my life, honestly, I love being with my kids, and I love what I do. And that's, making people with mental health concerns feel heard, seen, and valued. That's really important to me. And so that's what my main focus is. Now, if I got the itch and it became an opportunity, possibly. But for me in my life, the way it's set up, I just like to kind of stay in my lane and be with my kids.
You used your platform certainly for basketball as well, but you mentioned it, using your platform and your celebrity to help people that are experiencing mental health issues. What has it meant to you to be able to have that same impact?
It's really been life-changing. I just often think about my grandmother and the lessons she was teaching me about servant leadership and just showing people, leading with kindness, love, empathy. And that's what I just try to project into the world and give. And it's been transformative for me. I think it's been times where it's hard, right? I'm like, oh my God, this is hard. Sometimes it can bring you situations, can kind of bring you down, but some reason the man above gives me energy, revigorates me, and I'm just pushed out there and even accomplishing great things. So I think it's when my kids found out what I really do one day, I think they'll realize the amazing legacy that I left and how I've touched people. So that's the real deal for me.
All right, Carrie asks, who was your player mentor on the team? And we know Coach Summit was bad cop. Who was the good cop, your favorite assistant coach?
I would say Coach DeMoss. Coach DeMoss, and each assistant is special, but Coach DeMoss, man, she's a hoot and keeps me laughing, and she pretty much recruited me, so she was the one that I talked to a lot, and I was really into like jazz when I was younger. I used to listen to Kenny G a lot because my uncle, I spent a lot of time with, loved jazz music. So DeMoss would talk to me about Kenny G, Sheryl Crow, and all the music that I was listening to. So we just formed a bond. But she's still important to me in my life. I still keep in touch with her. And I would say as a player, I mean, oh gosh, it's just so many. I mean, obviously, definitely Kelly. She's the point guard. If you're a scorer, you're not friends with the point guard. You're not a smart person. So definitely, because it's like moments we went through. I remember times in the game like, Kelly, I'm tired. Like, I just go away from me. Go. She's like, no, I'm coming to you. Like, let's go. Like, you have to do this. You got it. And you appreciate that person offering you that extra support and an assistant and helping guide you. So yeah, just a lot of tremendous memories and people.
All right, one last question from our audience. Drake says, most difficult transition for high school athletes moving into D1, especially in the SEC?
Oh man, I would probably say, and as I talk to athletes now when I'm at the universities, that time management, those skills coming in, and it's hard being a student athlete, making time, number one priority is academics, but also being at a high level, it can be tough, and you got to have support and a good people around you. And I feel that every time I come back to Tennessee, just the support staff, the people around, making sure that these young ladies succeed. It's very important for them to take advantage of that, because a lot of the opportunities you get at a big time school like this, once you leave, those resources you may never see again in your life. So I try to tell young people, make sure they take advantage of everything. And as Coach Summit told us, make sure you shake hands, give good eye contact, and build relationships, because that's the key. You got to plant the seeds so that they could grow. And, I feel like when I'm meeting like younger people and stuff, I just want to make sure I give them that, instill that, make sure you're building relationships, because that's the key to life. You look back 10 years down the road, some of my closest friends were people that I invested my time into. You don't have to do anything, but I chose to go home with people. I chose to expose myself to something that was different, and look what came about it.
All right, we got one more question from the audience. Jenny asks, what advice would you give Coach Caldwell? She's in her first year at the University of Tennessee. Obviously, have caught kind of lightning in a bottle a little bit early with this system. What advice about all of this do you give to her?
I mean, I can't give her any advice because I'm not a coach, but I could tell her, she gets those girls out there. They play hard. They play hard, and I've got to watch them live in New York, and I was really impressed. It's a different energy around the program, but ultimately, anything you got to win, right? You got to get those W's, and the SEC is competitive. So first year in, I would probably say, you're going to hear a lot of talk. People are going to say this, people are going to say that, but you just got to stay committed in what you're doing, and bring it to the hardwood. Let those ladies lace them up and get it done.
How much would you have loved to play in that up tempo as well? You mentioned you saw it up close in Brooklyn. It's a breakneck pace sometimes.
And you want me to be honest? I would never play. Listen, I think it's exciting, but again, you got to know your talent, and if it matches, right, it got to match. My talent would not have matched with this because it's like I don't want to be taken out the game every 4 or 5 minutes. Like I want to be on the floor, and so definitely not my tempo. But I love watching it, and I am like shocked that those girls can do what they're doing. Like they're in great shape. They haven't had a lot of injuries. So I'm impressed. Like I tell everybody, I'm like, wow, I could not do that.
All right, we both saw both of these teams in person in Brooklyn. What do you think are a couple of keys to the game for tonight for Tennessee and Connecticut?
Oh man, we just have to defend. That's the key. Paige is an awesome talent. She does a lot of things on the basketball court. And we got to watch that freshman, Sarah Long, was it Sarah Long, right? Yeah, Sarah Long, I'm sorry. She's pretty good. She's got a European game. I played against her mother in a WNBA, Allison Feaster. Really can shoot the long ball, put it on the floor. Very international type game. We got to just limit her touches. And I think if we do that and contain Paige, we could walk away with the W. But again, we got to just get after them defensively. Got to play defense, and we got to make sure that we attack the basket. Sometimes we shoot the three so much. We got to have somebody that get to the hole, get to the cup, get to the foul line. So I think if we could do that, we could walk away with this W tonight.
All right, last thing for you before I let you go. We obviously have We Back Pat Week in the SEC. Coach Summit means something different to those that played for her, that had the opportunity to work around her. As we get more and more removed from active players having played for Coach Summit, how do we keep that spirit? How do we share with people what Pat Summit meant to those of us that knew her and impart that on a new generation?
It sometimes bothers me when people don't know who Pat Summit is, or know the impact that she has. But I think, it's up to the players, it's up to the coach, it's up to the university to make sure that these young players playing now understand who opened the doors for them, to look at that court and understand what that name means, to look at that statue and, make sure that you're telling those stories. I had a friend of mine that I grew up with in New York. She coaches men's basketball. She actually played at Ohio State. And she goes, oh my God, I'm listening to Coach Summit's book on audio. The last book she wrote was Sally Jenkins. And she goes, oh, she's dropping so many gems. She goes, I needed that because I needed to figure out how to motivate these men. So there's still a lot of amazing lessons that she's teaching us, even though she's not here with us. And I just think that we just got to continue introducing people to her. I'm always like, hey, you need to learn about her. As I look at her picture over there, and it's funny because my son is always like, I have a picture of my family. I'm down in my basement right now because I was working out. But my son is always like, oh, who's this one? And I'm like, one of the greatest influences in my life, a great mentor, a great friend. And I miss her dearly.
Chamique Holdsclaw, legend. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. Thanks for what you did for the University of Tennessee and for women's basketball, and what you're doing now for people spreading awareness on mental health concerns. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thanks for having me.
That is Chamique Holdsclaw, Tennessee legend, joining us here on Countdown to Tip-Off. Lady Vol Nation, the SEC tournament in Greenville, South Carolina is just a few weeks away. We need you there. The Office of Alumni Relations will be on site at Yeehaw Brewing in Greenville throughout the SEC tournament. It was a ton of fun last year. Be a ton of fun again this year with appearances from Tennessee Spirit, Pride of the Southland Pep Band, and more. It's always a great time with Our Lady Vol faithful. Be on the lookout for more information on our social media platforms soon. The University of Tennessee is a place where leadership and service are a way of life. Between the 360-degree options, plus hands-on learning experiences and endless opportunities, Tennessee is home sweet home to more than 30,000 current students and more than 275,000 alumni.
We are the Tennessee Volunteers. People who create connections, push boundaries, do the research that changes lives. We've got world-class academics and championship athletics. To be the best, you gotta learn from the best. And if you wanna lead, you gotta light the way. We've got what it takes. It takes a volunteer.
Now, glad to join us here on Countdown to Tip-Off is Senior Director of Athletic Events and Partnerships, Jordan Brantley-Pruitt. Jordan, great to have you with us today. Always love the Lady Vol gear and helping share this legacy with Lady Vol Nation.
Absolutely. I mean, what a cool opportunity to hear from Chamique Holdsclaw, one of the greatest to ever do it, not just at Tennessee, but in general. So thank you, as always, Brian, for joining us and hosting these shows for us. And a special thank you to Chamique today as well for joining us. I'm just really excited to be here, everybody, and share some big updates with us before tonight's game against the Huskies. Right now, there's never been a better time to join the volunteer family. We've received more than 62,000 applications for our incoming freshman class. And these prospective students are many of the best and brightest in the entire country. They represent every state in the United States, every county in the state of Tennessee, and more than 100 countries. So it certainly is an amazing time to be a Tennessee volunteer. Our alumni represent a community of more than 275,000 living alumni in every county and state, and more than 148 countries around the globe. We have 116 active chapters and alumni volunteer leaders in the U.S. who are ready and willing to connect with you wherever you go. All that said, I just want to be clear that none of this would be possible without the most passionate alumni and fans in the country. Our alumni and fans are the greatest ambassadors of the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and now more than ever, it is surely great to be a Tennessee volunteer. To learn more about our office and all of the things that we do year-round, you can find us at alumni.utk.edu. Before we take on the Huskies tonight and come back with that W, let's count down to tip-off starting now.
We'd like to thank you so much for joining us today for Countdown to Tip-Off. We remind you we'll be back with you for Countdown to Tip-Off for the Tennessee Volunteers and Kentucky coming up on Tuesday. Join us right here on these same platforms beginning at 12:30. And be sure to tune in tonight as the Lady Vols take on UConn, 6:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. I'll have it for you on the Lady Vol Network as well. And if you're in the Knoxville area, tickets still remain at allvols.com. Let's pack the place tonight because I know a lot of us have thoughts on Gino Auriemma, and what better time to share them with him? We always appreciate you joining us here on Countdown to Tip-Off. Thanks so much to everybody who made it possible, including our special guest, Lady Vol legend Chamique Holdsclaw. Till next time, I'm Brian Rice saying, go Lady Vols, let's beat the Huskies.